I made decisions based off of, what I felt and what I wanted at the time. So, I mean, just in the beginning, the first decisions I started to make were when I was in school. Like, I was very smart, very intelligent. I went to a magnet school, was accepted into the magnet program. And I would finish my work first. So I didn't really care about the rest of the class or how to, everything else went. And, I became sort of like the class clown, just talked too much, always got N's and U's on my report cards, everything, but had straight A's.
That's something we got in common, because I was a class clown too.
Terrible.
My season, this is mine. This is mine. I sold the season.
Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of A Voice of a Generation podcast. I'm your host, as always, King Leo, and today I got Dre with me. What's up, Dre?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Good, brother. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate you for coming by, do this episode with me, man. It's a pleasure. I've been wanting to hear your story for a minute, as I told you the other day. And I think it's interesting with the topic of decision making. You know what I mean? A lot of times in life, we fail to realize that the decisions that we make, it not only affect us, but it affect the people around us as well.
For sure.
And so with that being said, like, how have some of the decisions that you made affected the most important people in your life, and how did that make you feel?
Well, so I guess I've been selfish my whole life. I'm not even going to sit here in front, but even as a child, it's a little bit of selfishness, and then there was a whole lot of self-awareness. So what I saw for myself, what I envisioned myself doing, including my day-to-days as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I knew exactly what I wanted. So I made decisions based off of, what I felt and what I wanted at the time. So, just in the beginning, the first decisions I started to make were when I was in school. Like, I was very smart, very intelligent. I went to a magnet school, was accepted into the magnet program. And I would finish my work first. So I didn't really care about the rest of the class or how to, everything else went. And, I became sort of like the class clown, just talked too much, always got N's and U's on my report cards, everything, but had straight A's.
That's something we got in common, because I was a class clown too.
Terrible. I was terrible. I wasn't bad and like disrespectful, nothing with my peers, but, I just, didn't particularly care for authority, because I'm like, I already know. You know what I'm saying? I already know what I'm doing. I already know, a lot of stuff that I didn't know, of course, but, that was just my mentality. So I say all that to say my first, decision-making, like, just events that I went through in my life, like, they affected my mother. You know what I mean? And that affected our relationship to this day.
Right.
So she was the one that got the phone calls literally back to back every week, every other day, and she's coming up back and forth to the school. Something she used to always tell me was, you're embarrassing me. Like, you got me coming up to this school, all these teachers, everybody know my name. Like, how I'm supposed to feel, like I'm tired of coming up to this school, you know what I mean? And for me, that was just something for her to say. To me, it didn't seem like, oh, I'm tripping, you know what I'm saying? But that was the very first, row of decisions that I made, that really affected that, that relationship.
I feel that. My mom, I'm telling you, I was the same way. It's kind of weird, when you sit down and you have conversations like this with people and you see so much of yourself. And like, I was talking to my mom the other day about this, and she said, you just never know why people connect to your life, right? So when I first met you, I never understood the purpose of why God let us cross paths, right? But your story is a lot like mine, because my mom, she'll tell you, she's up at the school all the time. You know what I mean? I was in the principal office, suspended, class clown, authority, what? She even tried to put me in ROTC, and like ROTC still ain't work for me. You know what I mean? Because the sergeant, he up there telling me what to do, and forgive me for saying this, but I'm looking at this man like, nigga, you not my daddy. I'm dead serious. And he in my face yelling at me, and I'm just like who you think you is? You know what I mean? But I can understand that, because even as a kid, you know what I mean? And I was telling my little brother and sister the other day, the decisions that you make in the school, now you have to realize that you have to do things that you are doing, and you have to be on top of everything, and you have to do that with your mother in remembrance, because she's given a lot for you to even go to school, to have an education, you know what I mean, to make sure you got the clothes on your back, shoes on your feet, all stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it's very, very important to keep other people in mind. So when you go in there, you acting a class clown, how this gonna make my mom feel? Because she ain't trained me like this. She ain't raised me up like this, you know what I mean? So how is that going to affect her, you know, and things like that? So that's very, very important. I remember the first time I ever felt, because you said that your mom felt like you know, kind of embarrassing her when she had to keep coming up. The first time I felt like I disappointed my mom, is when I had got in trouble with the law the first time. And I found myself in the courtroom for the first time, and my mom, like, to see the look on her face, and she was just like, don't ever in your life have me in another courtroom. And when her saying that, I just felt like, dang, I was just such a disappointment. Although she didn't come out and say that to me, I just felt like, I really just disappointed my mom for the first time in life. And that hurt me, you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I wasn't thinking about myself, and she kept telling me, the people you running with, the people you running with, the people you running with. And I'm just not listening, right? Because, you know, we parents.
It's like whatever.
Parents know everything, right? Like,
exactly.
So, yeah, man, that for me was just, man, it was just crazy to go through that. And so with that being said, like, when did you know that it was time for you to start making changes in your life?
Well, you know, kind of bouncing from elementary. This was all prior to 5th grade. I was actually expelled from the elementary school. So we moved to another, you know, area where it was new people. You know, I didn't really know anybody. I wasn't as comfortable as I was at the other. So, you know, that took me down a whole nother path in itself, you know, of doing my own thing, but not, you know, basically by myself, you know, not having the people I, you know, were in class with, comfortable, I can talk to, whatever. So, for me, that took me on a different lifestyle path, but it didn't really resonate. So I still had my same morals, I still had my same code that I lived by, I still had, you know, even the things that I did for fun. At that time, I started smoking weed, you know what I mean? And that took me to a whole nother, you know, side of my lifestyle. But to be honest, like, skipping through all of that, I would say, you know, 8, 9, 10 years later, you know, even after graduating high school, I was still kind of doing my thing and, you know, selling drugs and just living my own lifestyle. I did work still, you know, but I still had that on the side. And it, to me, it was more so like, I'm trying to get money and I'm doing a great thing because I'm working hard to do it. You know what I'm saying? By any means. So, honestly, once I got locked up for selling drugs, in that case, I wasn't one of those, you know, street corner, like, oh, I'm at the gas station, you know, telling you I got nicks or whatever. I wasn't introduced into the game like that. Like, I was introduced selling quarters of weed, period. Nothing less, nothing more. You know, in the area that I had moved to at that time, you know, it was an older, you know, Caucasian community. And so it was easy for me, and I got comfortable doing that, you know, because I'm selling at least a quarter, you know, at a time, and then started getting into some other drugs, and it was an easy process. The elevation, you know what I mean, could have been on a whole nother level, you know what I mean, and it wasn't until I got arrested for something that was not my fault, you know what I mean. I wasn't doing anything at that time. You know, it wasn't until I got arrested, and then even after that, I still felt like, oh, I'm going to get out, I'll be fine, you know what I mean, I'm going to get a bond. Then they didn't give me a bond, and I'm like, okay, this cool, you know what I mean, like, I'm going to the bond hearing, you know what I'm saying. First one, they denied the bond, and you only get 2, you know what I'm saying. So I had my next one, I'm like, oh, they got to give me a bond, you know, the lawyer's talking, oh, 25 stacks, my dad's talking, okay, we got that, you know what I'm saying, cool. So we go into the last bond hearing, and my lawyer is suggesting $25,000 on the basis that I have never, you know, been arrested for anything else in my life, you know what I mean. I was working full time, I was in management, you know, and, you know, I was just a good kid. And the DA, on the other hand, was suggesting $100,000 for bond. The way they found me, I had a vision that something was going to happen.
Right.
And I was actually transporting everything I had to one of my homeboys' cribs. He had just got this apartment. I was going to meet him to get the key and drop that off. But because of that, I had a different array of drugs and paraphernalia and scales and, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So he was suggesting $100,000. The judge, on the other hand, granted me a $125,000 bond. So there's no getting out of that. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
You know, I didn't expect my father to have that. You know, and when he said that, I just sat there in the chair and I'm looking at him like, I don't think he understands. You know what I'm saying? Like, how you just gonna add the two numbers and just make up your own number? Like, you don't know, you know what I mean? All this, you know, just extra for no reason. You know what I'm saying? So I sat there for a minute and I'm just looking at him like, you know what I mean? The bailiff actually had to come and get me like, hey, it's time for you to go. You know what I mean? He stood me up. I turned around and I saw my dad and my brother. And my dad, who is probably the happiest person I know, was bawling in tears, just running down his face.
Right.
And when I got back in that holding cell, it was just like, dang, like, I really did it this time. You know what I'm saying? I really did it. And at that moment, knowing that I'm not really going anywhere for a minute, you know what I'm saying? It was you know, I just had an epiphany of, you know, I have all this talent. I'm super smart. You know what I'm saying? I'm a cool individual. I'm very true to myself. You know what I mean? And I'm in this situation. You know, and not only that, but I'm going back into these dorms with people that are nothing like me. You know what I mean? And not even to say that I am anything better than anybody else, but I've had better situations. You know what I mean? They have not excuses, but I can see why they would be in some of those situations that they were in, given their upbringing, given their experiences, given, you know, their history of abuse and whatever from their parents, you know, or their loved ones, whoever. And here I am, just there. I'm just there, you know what I mean? Just because I just want to do some hot stuff and make some money, you know. And I just, at that time, I told myself, like, I will not, when I get out, I won't do this. I'm going to use my talents. I'm going to use everything I have, you know, to be a success, which is ultimately what I wanted to do when I was selling drugs anyway. It was just be successful, you know, on my own terms.
Yeah, and to the word that really stuck out to me when you were saying that was comfortable. You know, a lot of times, you know, we live our lives in a place of comfort that we don't ever feel that we have to change. You know what I mean? And I've been in that place all too familiar, you know, with being spiritual, you know what I mean, with God sending warnings and watch out for this and watch out for that person, or stop doing this, or this is where your life is going to end up, you know what I mean, and not taking heed to those things because comfort and the comfort that's set in within me, you know what I mean, it just didn't allow me to see the other side of what was being said, you know what I mean. So I think that's where we all get in trouble a lot in our lives, and when we don't make the decisions that we need to actually make, you know what I mean, to make the change, because I'm so comfortable, I ain't get caught yet, so let me just keep going. You know what I mean? Like, oh, ain't nobody, you know, studying me. I'm comfortable. Let me just keep doing what I'm doing, and, you know, everything will be all right, right? But then it all caught up to you. You know what I mean? And that's what it does. It catches us. When it catches us like it all comes swarming in, and it's a bad feeling. And I remember the last situation, like, I really, you know, I just went through. We're coming out of a relationship or whatever. And me deciding to continue to indulge in a situation that I know God was clearly calling me from, you know what I mean? Because he's saying, if you don't do it, then this is what's going to happen. Because I can't be out here living a double life, right? So I'm up here proclaiming and professing Jesus Christ, but then I'm out here doing all of this other stuff, you know what I mean, that I know I'm not supposed to be doing, but I'm comfortable in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I like it. It's making me feel good, and I just want to do what I want to do. And like how you said, sometimes we want to be in control of our own life, in control of our own destiny. But the Bible, it talks about, it says that there's a way that seemeth right to a man, but the end thereof is death. So you can choose your path, you can choose what you want to do, but at the end of the day, you can't be mad at the consequences. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm coming to learn now. So that's what's making me actually want to change, you know what I mean, my ways or the things that I do, you know what I mean, or what I'm finding myself being attached to or who I'm finding myself being attached to, because I know that if I keep down my path, my life is going to go down. You know what I mean? And it's only two ways out. It's dead or in jail. And I don't want to die yet, and I know I don't want to go to jail. Right. You know what I mean? And so I do, you know, I think it's very important that you actually got to see that. And it's sad that it took being in a cell for you to see that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But
and I can see that, and I view it as divine purpose, you know, because a lot of the ideals and the empathy that I have now, the compassion that I have for other people, came from that time of my life where I was just like completely unarmed, you know what I mean, and just raw and open, you know what I mean. I got to get a glimpse into all these different lifestyles. You know, I got to get a glimpse into the staff at the jail and even their mentality and how they're, you know, I never thought as an inmate. You know what I mean? I always thought of myself looking at myself in these positions. So I'm looking at it. I'm looking at how the staff, you know, is treating people. I'm looking at how the inmates are treating each other. You know what I mean? And just the entire system. It was just, I had to, you know what I mean, detach from that and stay detached from that.
So like, even you talked about how you saw you and your dad was balling. How did seeing, you know, your loved ones be as affected as they were? How does that help you like make the decisions that you're making today?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much all the way in the forefront. Because at this time, I feel like I'm in that stage of my life where I've hit 30, you know, and then it's a thing when you hit your 30s, it's like, okay, like I'm grown now, I gotta make better decisions, blah, blah, blah. But it's always for you, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is how I need to maneuver in my new, you know, my new set of years in my life or whatever. But, you know, getting into 32, 33, 34, it's just like I'm starting to see like a well-rounded view of my responsibilities, which now, you know, to me, that includes helping my father who just recently retired. You know what I mean? That includes giving my brother keys, or, you know, taking care of a bill or two when I can, or, you know, taking time off to go spend time with my niece. You know what I mean? Not just being at the house or working all the time, but, you know, taking time to spend out with my family. You know, so it's just kind of like, it's just, I'm finding that I'm having to, not even having to, but I am not feeling as successful if I'm not taking care of those people. You know what I mean? And reaching out in some kind of way, whether it's money or time. Like, man, my dad, he cool, but man, he is annoying. He's annoying. I love him to death, but you know what I mean? It'd be like small doses, but you know, before I would just, you know, not answer the phone as much, or, you know, get him off the phone, or, you know what I mean, something like that. He's also recently divorced, so that's another kind of thing that he's not, you know, used to doing, you know, so now I'm finding myself, you know, I'll call him out the blue, he'll call me, we talk almost every day, but I'll listen to the stuff and I'm just like, Dad, you really told me this yesterday, but I'm gonna keep listening anyway, you know what I'm saying, like, and just act like, this is my first time hearing it, you know, because he be so excited, he's so excited, he's starting a new life, you know, I helped him kind of get back into the work field, which was something that he wanted to do, but was comfortable being retired, you know, so I kind of helped him get those, you know, move into those next stages of his life, and the responsibility I feel now is to just be there for him, you know, and just listen to him and just understand, you know, where he's coming from. But, you know, he's one to tell you the truth, tell you honestly, you know, what he thinks about something. And I used to get offended. You know, I used to cry. I used to tell him I hate him. You know what I'm saying? We was always close, but I would still, you know, express those things. But now it's just like, I get it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I am passing on some of those things that he taught me, and now it's just like, let me just let him
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just let him be him, man. He was a great father. He's a great grandfather. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of just let it be. You know, even my mom just trying to mend that. You know, I do feel like we need to sit down and have a talk. You know what I'm saying? Because we have never sat face to face and talked about, this is my perspective, this is how I feel about it, this is your perspective. Okay, now how can we make it work? Because we have to, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like, we have to. So even just now, just trying to, you know, let bygones be bygones, man. My mom is not perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have my own, you know, I feel like I've given her reasons to feel the way she does in a lot of ways, you know. But then also, that was 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? It was 20-some years ago.
Forgiveness is key.
You know what I mean? So, you know, sometimes she'll slip back into that, and I have to be like, Ma, like, that was 20 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for us to, like, really sit and, like...
But it's interesting to see the long-lasting effect that has, right? You know, to see that, you know, your mom still deals with certain things. But it's very, very important what you said, too, because I think family is everything. And I tell you all the time, yo, I love family. I was just talking to you the other day, I want to be married and have kids. You know what I mean? You like, how old you? I'm like, I'm about to be 30. You like, okay, yeah, it's about that time. But it's just like, I'm big on family. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of crazy that even like with the decisions that we make and the choices that we make, and when we're doing these things, we're not even thinking about family. You know what I mean? We don't see the importance of it. You know what I mean? We don't understand, you know, what family really is until we have to get into these places where I feel like God kind of gives us this like new perspective and outlook. Like, this is what was most important all along. You know what I mean? And although, you know, a lot of times, you know, as kids growing up, we may feel like we're alone. We may feel like we're misunderstood. You know, that our parents may not get us, our siblings may not get us. We may feel like an outcast sometimes, you know, in our family. So we kind of go out and we kind of try to find our way outside of that shelter that God has given us. You know what I mean? And so what I think is very, very important to realize, you know, the importance of that. So like, even in everything that you do, all you're thinking about is family. You know what I mean? You're recently engaged. You know what I mean? That's great. You know what I mean? Now you have another family, you know what I mean, that you have to think about. You know what I mean? So going forward in your life is just like, yo, how is this going to affect my fiance? How is this going to affect what we're building? You know what I mean? And that's very, very important. So that's just what I look at now with my decision makings. Like I was talking about earlier, the relationship I got out of, when the person went back and spread all types of lies, you know, on my family, on my mom, went back to the store, did us dirty. You know what I mean? It hurt my mom that I could still kind of be, contacting or be attached to her. But what I was feeling, and it was selfish, because selfish is another word, is that I was selfish enough to say, this was my situation, and I'm not ready to get over this situation. Look, I understand of what just transpired and what took place, but I felt like I needed the time to get over it when I was ready to get over it, you know. So I found myself kind of still indulging in this and talking to this person, and I didn't understand why my mom was so hurt, you know what I mean? And she felt like my loyalty, because me and my mom has always been close, you know what I mean? I didn't have my dad. My dad died when I was 2 months, you know what I mean? So it's just been me, my mom, and my sister, you know what I mean? And so like my mom, me and her, we always had this close bond, and when that happened, that was the first time I've ever seen our bond threatened. You know what I mean? And I felt my mom, you know, not wanting to be as present, you know what I mean? Not wanting to really, you know, be that wisdom that I needed, you know what I mean? Because she was hurt and she was going through what she was going through. And by all means, it was right for her to feel what she felt, you know what I mean? So I wasn't even really thinking. But then when I had to take a step back and I said, you know what? Yes, you know, I was in it for my selfish reasons, you know what I mean, the things that I was doing, but it's not worth it. It's not worth losing my family over. It's not worth losing this relationship with my mom over. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that person's going to go on, live their life, and guess what? I'm going to have a damaged relationship with my mom. So now let me man up, let me put that to rest, and let me get back to building this. You know what I mean? Because this is what's most important. So that's, you know, that's what helps me a lot, you know, going forward in my everyday life. You know what I mean? Just thinking about the most important things. You know what I mean? Sometimes we're doing it off of impulse. You know what I mean? We're living in the spur of the moment. That's the type of person I am sometimes. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about next week. I'm thinking about right now and how this gonna make me feel. You know what I mean? And so like I just think that's very, very, very important. And so The last thing I'll ask is, how is your focus different now than what it was back then?
So, my focus has shifted. I feel like I've always had that tunnel vision for whatever I'm trying to do, whether it's legal or illegal, whether it's, you know what I mean, right now, like 10 years ago. And I feel like that's one of the things that people that have known me over the years, you know, will be able to say is that I've always been focused on something, whatever it is. And I feel like now being engaged, you know, and having a fiance, I mean, it's just honestly been a blessing to me. And it just gave me a new perspective on family and love, you know, because you have your family, you have that, but then, you know, with us building a new family and starting with each other, like just even making her my family, because you can have a girlfriend, you can have a friend, you can love somebody, you can be in love with somebody, but it's still not family. Like, it, you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference. But coming into knowing that, okay, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, this is my family, you know what I mean? So my perspective had to shift a little bit, you know what I mean? And take her out of that friend, girlfriend, right? And now it's like, okay, it's a deeper love, you know what I mean? And honestly, like, that love has sparked who I am today. You know, we met 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was in an extremely depressed state. You know, I was not satisfied with where I was at in my career. You know, I was still talented and still doing these little mini projects on the side and not, you know, seeing any long-term results. And then I met her.
And you left us behind, but I'm glad you did.
I had to, man. We gotta,
look where you
gotta
at
grow.
now.
You know what I'm saying? It's all a
Yeah.
part of that process. Like, when I met her, you know, she's 10 years younger than me. You know, and 10 years ago, I had that same drive that she had when I met her. And it inspired me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dang, like, even though I'm down bad, you know, to me, in my eyes, you know, I have all these great connections with all these people over the years, you know, I'm still just basically in the same place. And that's how I was feeling, you know. But seeing how her attraction to my spirit, you know, made her want to be better. And I already thought she was good, you know what I mean? It took her into deeper levels, which took me into deeper levels, you know what I mean, to keep up. You know what I'm saying? So now it's kind of like that has shifted where I'm at in my life. You know, now I'm aware of other people's issues or other people's loves or other people's insecurities or other people's anything that they have. I'm hyper aware of that, you know what I mean, because I can see from a loving perspective now, you know. And it's just like, you gotta love everybody, you know. And honestly, my focus is to really just love, you know what I mean, to enlighten as much as I can, and to be enlightened, and to continue to stay open-minded and read and try to learn new things, you know what I mean? Because I want this to go beyond me, you know what I mean? Like, now, like, talking about the family, I'm focused on what can I do for my family, not just my family now, but generations after me, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, how are we gonna make this last, and how are we gonna get our, you know, next generation kids or aunts or mothers or brothers, whatever they're going to be, how do we show them a different way that will carry on through, you know, through our family. So that's my focus, man. I mean, of course I want to be successful, you know what I mean, make a whole lot of money.
Yeah, you will be.
A whole lot of money.
The money is coming.
You know? But, you know, with that, and really with the money, and I was just talking to a homie the other day, it's just like, when I say money, like, I don't mean just the paper. I mean the freedom, the opportunity that brings. The wealth. Like, I'm not in it to get rich. Like, I want to be wealthy. You know what I mean? And not just money, health, and my, you know what I mean, my mental state and my education level. Like, I'm doing a podcast, and I'm, about to start a podcast, and I want to learn more words. You know what I mean? I want to learn how to be a better speaker.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So then I go into that Malcolm X and I'll read the dictionary.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way for me to elevate. And I want to be pushed. You know what I mean? I don't want this to be easy at all. I don't expect it to be easy. I expect to fail on some things. I expect to be set back.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so
it's gonna only propel you forward.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Keep going.
Right.
I just keep going.
Right.
So that's I just want to do that, man. Right. I just want to make money and love, and I want to have that freedom. You know what I mean? To do whatever I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The most important thing is to keep going, as you said, because a lot of us we hit one stump in the road and we give up. Yeah. You know what I mean? We don't see beyond that, you know what I mean? But it's also a blessing because your story started off selfish, but now you're in a place where you're forced to think about somebody else. It's funny how I come full circle, right? But no, like it is, man, and I feel that, and I've always been, even though, I'm just hearing this side of your story, I've always been inspired by you because your drive, you know what I mean? I'm like, every time I link with Dred, she always thinking to do something, you know what I mean? Oh, I started off here. Let me elevate, let me go somewhere else. And then you always putting other people on. What you did, for the homie Ty, hey, I'm going to put you in my position. You know what I mean? That's how it is, and that's how you continue to stay blessed and how you continue to keep growing in life. Is to not just think about yourself and your next move, but how can I set somebody else up for success? And I think that's what's most important in life. And so that's what my focus on, how you said, my focus is on how can I help my little brother, who also is fatherless? You know what I mean? I know what it's like to be fatherless. So now my focus is on him, you know what I mean? Because I know what it's like to grow up without that. My little sister, I know what it's like to grow up without that. So how can I be a better role model for them? I'm not their dad, but I'm their older brother. You know what I mean? I may not know what it's like to father yet, but I can give them my time and my attention and stuff like that. And so that's what I've been doing more, just being focused on things that are pushing me, propelling me forward, bringing me closer to my purpose and my calling in life. Getting back to things like this, the podcast, focusing on building better relationships and maintaining the ones that I feel that are important in my life. Right. You know what I mean? So I just think that is very, very, very important. And I just want to thank you personally again for taking the time out to come out here, sit down with me and to do this. I greatly appreciate it. I love the wisdom.
For sure.
OGs,
anytime, man. Sorry, got the little nasal thing.
You're good, you know what I
mean? But thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate it, man. Anytime.
No doubt, anytime. And I look forward to yours as well. You got one coming up. What's it called?
So it's called Icon-ish. It's me having conversations with pop culture entrepreneurs. Highlighting the losses and the lessons on the way to the journey, on the way to success. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
That's what's up. Hey, again, appreciate you. Thank y'all for watching. This is a Voice of a Generation podcast. I'm King Leo, and we out.
I sowed the seeds, now I'm reaping my harvest. This is my season, I'm reaping my